Hey everybody, we're back once again. What number? 60, 70,
70, right?
70.
70.
Yep, 70.
10 years older, 9 years older than me. 70, which is pretty amazing. This time we're back on the instruments. We've done guitar, we've done keyboards, and now we're on to bass. Uh, I just thought about this the other day. We should have saved this, but are we going to do vocalist? Never. I just thought about that. And drums. I always thought about vocals, best vocalist. Anyway, for another time. Bass. Let's focus on the bass. Um, Lots of great bass players out there. Mike, I did not go look up the top 50 bass players from Rolling Stone because I know you get touchy about that. So I'll leave that one alone.
Well, only if it's somebody else's list. If it's my list, it's right, of course.
Yeah, of course. If it's our list, well, we're spot on. So, before we start, anything y'all like to say about making this playlist and what y'all felt about it?
Go ahead, Mike.
Oh, sorry. I like everybody on here. There are definitely some outliers. I probably am most responsible for that. And it's kind of hard to necessarily have, it's kind of a hodgepodge just because there's different musical styles. I'm not criticizing it, but I thought it was really interesting. I learned actually some things doing this one.
Yeah, I like to listen to music, and we listen to lots of things and we go, wow, that was a great song. And for whatever reason on this one, we did these bass players, and I'm just going to tell you right up front, the song is secondary to listening and honing in on the bass players. And if you've never listened to songs just specifically like that, it's kind of a different experience, where you're actually wanting to listen to one instrument or whatever and see what they're doing. And so I thought that was kind of neat. I thought it for me, it highlighted some incredible bass players and again, a different way to listen to the playlist versus just, oh, that's a nice song. It has good lyrics. No, listen to that bass line.
Right. Yeah, I think you make a great point, and it is a great point that sometimes when we make these, especially for when you listen to them, you kind of focus on that aspect of it, and you realize even how good they really are. So, without further ado, I suppose I'll get started. I started with who I consider probably the godfather of bass, jam bass, of course, is Phil Lesh. Lost him just recently, but we've used a bunch of his songs. I put Bats of Rain, which is the one he actually helped write with Robert Hunter, and it's a really beautiful song. That's one of those songs you can focus on and not have to worry because it's not really highlighting his bass playing per se. I mean, if you really wanted to highlight it, you get something live like from the other one or something like that. Phil bombs is what we used to call those when he was jamming. But this is one of those lovely songs that how you deal with grief, a lot of great lyrics in it, easily quotable. It's all we say this about the Grateful Dead. It's a song about lyrics that mean nothing, but they mean a lot. So just thought I'd throw that out there and get it started.
Yeah, I don't have a lot to say about it. This is one of those most revered Grateful Dead albums, and this is one that if you know the Dead music, it's well known. It maybe didn't get as much airplay as other things, but I've always loved this song. In fact, I think on those records, that this is American Beauty and Working Men's Dead, I kind of like the lesser played songs more, and this is a great example of that. And it's another example of up until Jose mentioned it recently that Phil Lesh actually sang that I thought was a different person singing. But yeah.
Yeah, it's a great song. It's one of my favorites. I think probably because it goes back to the days of making mixtapes, and it's probably one of the early ones where Jose turned me on to the Grateful Dead, and it was one of the songs always stuck in my head, and I was always there. And I probably didn't appreciate or know that it was a Phil Lesh thing, or that it was, that was it until much later. But certainly a good compliment to him. And I think we sometimes underestimate, maybe that's the wrong word, but the bass players, because if you really look around, you kind of think, oh, well, they're just in the rhythm section, they're doing whatever. But there's a lot of bands where the bass player is either the lead or the lead vocalist or writing the songs or those kind of things. And so, not that Phil Lesh did, a lot of writing with them, uh, but we sometimes forget that with the bass players, I think. So, good way to start it off, for sure. From there, I'm going to actually do a 180 where I was talking about focusing on the bass player, not the song kind of thing. But yet, many of the songs that I picked were traditional kind of songs that weren't just long jams or those kind of things, for my selections. And I did take a peek at some of the greatest bass players and that kind of thing to try to formulate what I wanted to do, or which five bass players I wanted to highlight. And I hit on a guy that's more of a session musician than anything, but Leyland Sklar, who many people may not know him, but he's been around and played with lots of different people. And the James Taylor track I picked, Your Smiling Face, is one where his bass playing is all over it and really is highlighted, I think, in the song. And one more thought is I remember hearing something about how James Taylor was one of the first persons in the early 70s who, on his liner notes, started putting all the members that were on the album, and that generated a lot of work for these people where they went, "Whoa, Leyland Sklar, I got to play with him." And then Jackson Brown picks him up, and then so and so picks him up, and then he starts playing with a lot of different groups. And so he's the bearded one over here. Whatever, if you didn't know. And but it's a funky, cool bass line that he has on this Your Smiling Face, and so I thought I would put that on.
Oh yeah, I mean, you mentioned this earlier. This is one of those songs that brings me back, because this is on the Driving My Train mixtape out there. And I was listening to that to say, was that on there? And it was, of course, I remember. But it also had two James Taylor songs on there. It's like, oh, the days when we used to break the rules, or when that used to be the rule, like one on each side. So anyway, always a great song, and it's a fun song. And I agree with you, Dave. Because you've heard it so many times, you try to focus on his playing, and you realize, man, that guy's, pretty great. I'm going to say this, and I'll say it. A lot of these guys, like these session guys, they should be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. You throw out this. I'll just say, you have this kind of, oh, let's throw the E Street Band in there because they okay, but yet there's a hundreds of other session guys who have put in the time and energy, much more. Especially you take this guy's resume over anyone in these two. Yeah, they're in the E Street Band, but this guy, he's making rock and roll history across the board, on a variety of albums. And I'll just throw out one more thing. Dave was always the king of the liner notes. He'd read the like, oh look, Russ Kunkel. Oh look this guy. He was always reading to see who was playing. So he had a good background in that.
Yeah, so this guy, I'd heard the name, but I really there's like if you especially like James Taylor, like a lot of people that you've seen them play live, not maybe in person, but like on video or something, you'll start recognizing some of the same guys. And I can't remember, is it Russ Kunkel? You know, he has his hair like this, and there's Jeff Skunk Baxter, and there was always this guy with this beard, and I recognized him, and I never knew his name, or made the connection. But man, this guy, I'm just looking at the Wikipedia page. He played, I'm just looking at, here's Randy Newman, Willie Nelson, Juice Newton. I mean, that's just the ends. You know, there's gonna be hundreds of albums on here that he played on. He also, I was, again, Wikipedia, he played on some TV theme songs, which had prominent bass, like the Rockford Files, Magnum PI, the A-Team, Hill
Oh,
Street Blues, just to name a few. I wonder if he played the Barney Miller theme, because that starts with that very prominent bass. I don't know if he did, but anyway, yeah. And this song, yeah, I did this what you were talking about, especially this one. I've always been familiar with this song. It's kind of Rachel and my one of our songs, you know, from back in the day. But it's listening to the bass, I'm like, oh wow, yeah. You kind of pull that out and focus on that. It was great, you know. So glad we got him in there. Um, I went, my next person, or my first person, was Jaco Pastorius. And so this is kind of a delves into some jazz. He did play some session work with, for instance, Joni Mitchell on her album Ahira. Anyway, I don't know how to pronounce it, but that song Coyote is on there, and Black Crow, which we've had on a playlist. But just a phenomenal bass player. I read, actually, Jose gave me a biography of him, and it's sadly short. You know, there's not so many pages in it because sadly he didn't live very long. It just this phenomenal ability. It just amazes me that somebody can have, you know, in such a short period of time, can just have that. It blew everybody he played with away, you know. This song's called Continuum, is off his first album. Um, he may have done some session work before that, but he was really young, and apparently that song he wrote in his teens. The song features Herbie Hancock and some others. I'm sure that I shouldn't leave them out, but he like the things. I heard people mention that really blew him away in that book was like harmonics. When you hit like a note where you don't fully press down, it makes this tone that's really cool, and that's all through there. Yeah, I don't want to focus on the negative, but you know, I'd be remiss to not mention his career was maybe 15 years, and he had mental health issues that then led to um, drug abuse, which led to all kinds of outlandish behavior. And he basically messed with the wrong guy, messed with a bouncer who did him in, basically. It was everybody's loss, you know. But anyway, I highly recommend checking out his stuff. I've only heard a little. He was with Weather Report and some other bands, but even just his first solo album with this song just blew me away.
Well, my first exposure to Jocko was you putting him on, I think with the Joni Mitchell and stuff like that. And so that's the first time I heard of him. And um, yeah, incredibly talented. You know, does he ever sing or have vocals or anything, or is it just pretty much instrumental when he does his solo stuff?
I'm trying to remember. I think he maybe did some singing, but it wasn't really what he was known for.
he doesn't sing. He usually has someone else singing on it. You know, he does a couple about 4, 5, or 6 songs because I picked some out that where there's vocals on it. So yeah,
Well, you know, it's like listening to a, you know, whatever, 4.5 minute long bass solo, even though he has other instruments in there, right? And he's a little guitar and little other things that are going on. The focus is on the bass, which you rarely ever see, right? You rarely ever hear. I can't think of, I mean, there probably are, but I can't think of other bass players where they go, yeah, they put out an instrumental solo album or whatever, right? they just doesn't happen, but he can carry it. And yeah, he's amazing. Sad that he's passed away so early, but cool song. I liked it. Had a great vibe to it.
Yeah, like Mike said, I got him the book, and then of course I bought the book and read it, and I thought it's a fascinating book on just a man who's self-destructive. But he would tell you he was the greatest bass player of all time. He'd walk into the room, and that was his problem. When he did albums, especially other people, like when he was on the Weather Report, or he wanted to be in charge of it. He wanted to engineer it. He wanted it to sound just like he wanted it to sound, and of course people like, dude, take a seat. And then, of course, like Mike said, he had so many issues. But I mean, when he was on, and he was probably the best bass player out there. So, yeah, he's a fascinating guy. It's a shame that we lose him because then, you always wonder what would have been. So, great. I love it. I bought the Weather Report on vinyl just recently, and so it's just fun to listen to. It's just so innovative what he played. So from there we go completely from jazz to heavy metal, but it's my choice, and that's Children of the Grave by Black Sabbath, which of course features Geezer Butler. Uh, Probably be one of the developed the sound of heavy metal through his bass playing. And so, if you're saying there's three bands that probably define heavy metal with, Led Zeppelin, Deep Purple, Black Sabbath, and then look to see who their bass players are. You'll see some pretty good ones, John Paul Jones and Roger Glover, and then Geezer Butler. And he introduced a whole different sound. And he was one of the reasons that their songs are so great. And even this song, which sounds so ominous and menacing, is about, anti living in a nuclear society and anti-war. And, if you don't do something, you're going to be children of the grave. So, and he wrote a lot of the lyrics to a lot of the early songs. So, not only was his bass playing, and when we first saw him that first time, Dave, and when you see him playing and his style of playing, man, he really drives it home. So anyway, early influence on my rock and roll journey. So
Yeah, first off, I like the name Geezer. So it's good. I'm glad he has that.
I was gonna jump in and ask if you knew what his real name was, if that was his real name.
no, there's his real name out there. I forget what it is, but it's out there. Yeah.
Well, this is
You hear the real name, you go, oh yeah, that Geezer sounds better.
Geezer, I think, means something a little bit different in England. Like I've read these biographies of the Who, and they're always referring to guys as geezers, but they're not meaning. It's like somewhat a joshing, somewhat derogatory,
Uh,
thing of a guy, another guy. But oh yeah, that geezer. Anyway, not just an old. Anyway, I digress. Yeah, I know I've known this song a long time. I had a great what was it? We Sold Our Souls for Rock and Roll by Black Sabbath, and this song was on there. And it's one I always liked. That was like, again, for me, lesser known. I never got the chance to see him, and it's also unfortunate that back in the day I didn't really appreciate the other members. It's like basically Ozzy and the guitarist, and I didn't really get. This is a great example of, bass isn't just the thing that kind of underlies it all, but it drives it. It's part of the rhythm section, but as like you saw in my last one, it can be a lead instrument too. So I like the song. I like the message. Actually, the name, you really have to listen to the lyrics because the name is kind of like what, but it's a
Well,
good message.
because we have technology at the tip of our fingertips, which is great. His name is Terrence Michael Joseph Butler.
there you go. Geezer.
And don't stop there. How did he get the name Geezer? Well, it says right here. It says he got it because as a young kid, he copied his older brother and it stuck for life.
Okay.
His brother served in the army with Cockney soldiers who called everyone geezer, meaning mate or dude. when his brother came home on leave, he greeted everyone that way. Young Terrence Butler started doing the same at school, and other kids began calling him Geezer. Okay, there you go.
Great
Yeah, I
man.
think Terrence has a little bit more cred with the band than Terrence. And on bass, Terrence.
Terrence. Yeah. I don't know. Anyway, he's a great bass player. I like, like I said, it's a cool song. I don't know if I ever remembered this actual track or whatever, but it's a good tune. I mean, you got Tony Iommi doing his thing, and and Ozzy and everything. It's a classic Black Sabbath song. I did think at the end though, it about made me shat my pants a little bit. I didn't realize it was coming. That whole it could have been on our Halloween, playlist or something because it was pretty wicked spooky. So I wasn't ready for it when it came on. I'm like, what is it? Well, I had to turn up my speakers. I'm like, oh, oh. And the bass is being played kind of in the background, stuff. And it was pretty cool ending. Anyway.
And I will say it led really well into your song.
From there, for me, one of my favorite bass players of all time in the rock band, yes, is Christopher Squire. So many choices I could have played on that. I'm thinking, what am I going to do to showcase Chris Squire? And oddly enough, it comes on the Drama album where John Anderson's not on there, Rick Wakeman's not on there. They replaced those two and brought in uh, Jeff Downs and Trevor Horn. And I'll tell you, that's probably my favorite Yes album, just because it's so different and dynamic, and Chris Squire's bass playing is just all over. The start of the song, just leads into that. It's called "Does It Really Happen," and it's just incredible. It's a little bit longer of a song, 6.5 minutes, but towards the end there, you hear him playing on the upper level, upper part of the bass, and just carrying the tune. And again, he's just one of the greatest, and been looking for an opportunity to put a cool Chris Squire type song. Now, the other thing too is he with Yes is he co-wrote songs. He provided the vocals. So when you hear like All Good People or something like that, it's John Anderson and Chris Squire mostly, doing the vocals on that. And so that's what I like too about him is that he's not just playing the bass. He's singing, he's writing songs and everything. So
Yeah, it's well, it's one of my favorite albums, and we love that album. Even though they're not, I think it's a close for me. It's close second to Close to the Edge, but still, I mean, we could put every song on that album on any of these playlists, and I think we've already used like three or four. Album's fantastic. Like you said, it really highlights Chris Squire, and this version of Yes, after they got a little bloated, they got with Tales from Topographic, and they got, and then of course the John Anderson left. I think they made it a little more tighter, a little more rock and roll, and this was the outcome, and it's fantastic. And again, just to showcase Chris Squire, who is showcased in a lot of, you listen Close to the Edge and all of his contributions to that. So, just another. I always thought he was the backbone of the group. Yes, still tours, but it's hard now with Chris Squire in there. So, yeah, beautiful song. I love it. False start or false ending. Always gotta love the false ending. And yeah, great song.
Yeah, there are so many songs we could have included by them. I mean, I'll echo that. There's one. It's the names are escaping me now, but there's one that I know that is just I can hear it. It's just beginning with the bass, and there's some keyboards with it, and it just like drives the song. Um, I think I've said this before, and but this is I was not. I kind of my Yes. Um, Attention was like Close to the Edge, Fragile, and whatever that other one in there that I'm 60-year-old brain is not picking up. And then I got what 90215. I actually saw them that tour, but this album, I just never really gave it a chance. I don't know that I even listened to it until you guys, and it probably had part to do with John Anderson not being there. I just didn't, But who's the singer again? Is it Trevor?
Trevor Horn and Jeff Downs, they kind of share it.
So at least Trevor was on 90215, right?
I think Jeff Downs was. Jeff Downs is still in the band.
Yeah. But John Anderson came back for that album.
Yeah.
So anyway, whatever. Yeah, that's who I'm thinking of. But anyway, all that aside, it's a shame as well. We lost him. And I'm not trying to make light of that by saying this, but apparently he was referred to somewhat derogatorily by other members of the band. As the late as the late Chris Squire, because he always showed up late for recordings and practice and stuff. So, but great bass player. So I went with, and I didn't say this, but I really like this song. And it again is a reminder why I need to give this album more of a listen. I went from there to Tony Levin. Who it's on King Crimson Sleepless, which is one of the three 1980s primary color albums. This is it Three of a Perfect Pair? I don't know. It's a yellow one. Yeah, it is Three of a Perfect Pair.
Look, his bass guitar is actually, wait, I got to move out of the way.
Yeah.
His bass guitar is actually, see how that?
Right, I'm down on the bottom there. Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and so he played. I did get to see him. Well, Jose and I went to see this group that included him, Adrian Ballou, and music from that period of King Crimson. And he was there, and he just amazed me as always.
We actually saw him twice in 6 months because he was with Peter Gabriel.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
He's a working individual.
That's right. In fact, I'll now that we're on that, he played on so many. I mean, he rivals Leland Sklar. I don't know how many he's done, but you just think of an album from the 70s into the 80s and beyond. And he's just like, the guy is just amazingly prolific. He was on, I think, every solo Peter Gabriel album so far. He was on Double Fantasy, John Lennon's last and Yoko's last album. I mean, just he so crazy after all these years. You just on and on, all these albums. And he's so he plays something called a Chapman stick, which I don't know exactly how. It's a stringed instrument. I don't know how many strings he has on it, but it's a lot. It's not. You can play bass and do all kinds of stuff with it. So that's not what he uses on this one. It's a regular bass, but I think he's using these tools that are basically drumsticks that he attaches to his fingers so it can kind of get that extra, slap sound, which is how this song starts. He also, I don't remember if he did this when we saw him, plays stand-up bass. I think both electric and acoustic. But then just this period of King Crimson is, I hate to say my favorite, but I really like everything that they did during this time. So I could go on and on. I'm sure we're going to hear more from him.
I really like this song. I don't know that I remembered it or whatever, but when it coming off the Chris Squire and then right into that slap kind of bass thing that you mentioned, I don't know the styles or whatever of it, but it grabbed my attention right away. And so this is one of my favorite songs on the playlist because it's amazing. Just when you focus in on the bass and listen to what he's doing, not just solo stuff, but just behind the scenes and the subtle way he plays. Unreal, amazing. So I've always liked him. I didn't know a whole lot about him. I didn't know he played with a lot of different bands. I knew he was with Peter Gabriel and King Crimson pretty much, but no, he's amazing. That was a good choice.
I'm not going to beat this dead horse too much, but again, Tony Levin, not in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. How is that not even possible? this guy was, like Mike said, his credentials are overwhelming, better than hundreds of people in the rock. I mean, this guy produced rock and roll history, and I would dare say his sound. You know, he has a distinct bass sound. You listen to those Cream Crimson. You even listen to Peter Gabriel. He does not, obviously he's not defining Peter Gabriel's sound, but he's definitely contributed to a certain Peter Gabriel sound. I mean, there's a reason why he keeps bringing it back. Also, a little fun fact: he was the one that was they wanted him to replace him and Roger Waters and Pink Floyd on tour, and I think he did some work with them. But even then, you know, it's like, hey, let's get Tony Levin to replace Roger Waters. Again, it's crazy that he cannot be in the rock. He, for some whatever crazy reason, and as for the song, like that concert still is great. I even bought the Blu-ray just to watch that concert. I have that on Blu-ray. It's so well done, and he's so good. Again, that sound is so distinct. So anyway,
I'm sorry to interrupt. I don't know. Did I say the name of the song? Sometimes I think I forget to do. It's Sleepless.
I
If I
think,
didn't-
yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah.
go ahead. Sorry, I just wanted to.
Yeah, it's a good catch. So from there, I went a little different from prog rock to new kind of rock in the 90s and Red Hot Chili Peppers. If you listen to this, you know I'm a big Red Hot Chili Peppers person. I like their sound, and one of the reasons their sound is good is because of Flea. Uh, don't ask for his real name. I think I just read because I just read Anthony Kiedis's biography, and they talk about he has some weird. I forget his name in that, but anyway, the book by Anthony Kiedis is decent unto itself, but obviously Flea has a lot to do with the success of the Red Hot Chili Peppers. Again, he was straight. He listened to jazz more so than anything, and but then got involved with it, and then of course became part of the Red Hots, and really is, you know, the heart and soul of that group. You know, he's the one that brings, I think, the most energy. Uh, so I picked up Get on Top. It's a Californication. People might say, "Wow, that's, you know, that's a more tame kind of Flea," but I just think the guy that owes a lot to the guy we didn't pick was Larry Graham from Side of the Family Stones, that kind of slap bass playing. So anyway, thought I'd throw in. He brought a whole new sound. He, you know, introduced a whole new sound for a lot of generations to come.
Yeah, I think this one flows really well after the last one because of the funky nature of his bass playing, which of course, you know, you couldn't call Sleepless a funky song, but with that slap bass, it really is similar to that. And you're right. I mean, if you, anybody who has not seen video of them playing live, I don't know where the guy gets his energy. He's just a maniac out there. He's got to be not just musically, but physically driving the band. I didn't used to get them the first couple albums. I don't know. Maybe I mentioned I had a bad experience listening to their music early on. I didn't get it, but then I did, and they're great. I was gonna mention something. Oh, just they. It's not this song, but his bass playing on Higher Ground. They covered Stevie Wonder's Higher Ground, and it really. I think without that song wouldn't be. It wouldn't be a good cover. So thank you for the song.
Yeah, you've turned us on to a lot of the Red Hot Chili Peppers. Since you did that, you had told me about that documentary, and I got a chance to watch the documentary about Hillel Slovik, I think is his name, the first lead guitarist when they were just starting out and doing their thing, and so learned a lot about Flea and how he joined the band, how he he didn't even know how to play guitar, but bass or whatever, and picked it up and started doing that, and how he got his nickname because he was so hyper and energetic and all that kind of thing. And I agree. I think the Sleepless and Get on Top go real well together for different reasons. But yeah, it's got a great funk to it. I liked it. Um, but yeah, I learned a lot from watching that documentary about how the Chili Peppers got going. And then I guess this is a song that's after Hillel Slovak. This is that other guy, and I can't remember the other guy's name.
That's
Whatever.
Shante.
Right, he's amazing too. I mean, he's
Yeah.
really took the band to a whole nother level there. But no, good choice. From there, I kind of was looking at some of the top 10, top 15 bass players and trying to say, oh, okay, let me just see if there's somebody on this list. And not that I was like following Lewis Johnson or thinking, oh, this guy is, that I know a whole lot about him. But uh, I picked Michael Jackson's song, Billie Jean, which Lewis Johnson plays on. And it's nothing fantastic. It's not like it jumps out at you. It's just it's in the background. It's his laying down that bass beat and keeping it going. And I think that's sometimes where it gets overlooked, right? You don't have to do fancy solos and do all that different kind of stuff. You just need to be in the rhythm section and be playing a cool, funky bass part. And then this song is one of those kind of songs where you don't always think of, oh, who's the bass player? And what are they doing on that? You're thinking of Michael Jackson and the lyrics and the song. But anyway, uh, it's kind of, I've been waiting to try to find a place to put Michael Jackson on a playlist because we don't put him on for whatever reason, we haven't. And this is one where, yeah, this is a cool song, Billie Jean, and give some props to Lewis Johnson.
Yeah, I agree. I guess I know what you're saying, but when this song first starts and that bass thing kicks in, man, you know what's going on. And for some reason, the production is so clean. It's so pristine coming off that thing that you're like, oh my God, this is, every time when I'm walking and I hear this song, you're like, oh, this is, and it really stands out, especially when you're looking for it because we're listening to the bass. And yeah, this is a tremendous song. Obviously, I will say it. I did not buy this album. What am I? One of 20 million people who did not buy this album. I never owned Thriller, but I guess I'm the one in the wrong there. So, yeah, it's a fantastic song. And it broke him through, really. And then, of course, his video kind of got played and that kind of broke him through. So, yeah, again, I don't know if any of us are really like, I mean, we appreciate it. We don't know, we're not throwing them on there all the time, but it is good. It is interesting, Dave, that you bring that up that, we've done things about Bruce Springsteen and Bob Dylan, but a movie about Michael Jackson came out and we don't do anything about that. Although I didn't see it, so I don't know.
I didn't see it either.
Yeah, the art is pretty decent, so.
I'd be up for a Michael Jackson playlist.
Yeah.
As long as I can include some Jackson 5.
Yeah,
Um,
that's what we know best, right?
right. Ben, was that, I think that was one of his early solos. It was a theme from a movie about a boy and his rat. Um, but yeah, okay. So same with me. I didn't own Thriller. Um, and it was my musical snobbery at that age. I was like, I was way into something different at the time. And it was like getting so much airplay. It just like it was my bad, but I was just automatically, oh, well, it's no good because it's popular, a really screwed up attitude, which I've tried to, and I now have more of appreciation of Michael Jackson, and this this song in particular got a lot of airplay, and so again, I didn't appreciate it because of that. But I came around, like with a number of things like that, where now I do have the record, actually, the vinyl, and I this song, yes, it is absolutely. Um, if Michael Jackson did nothing else, this is a great song. And also what you're saying, I agree, Jose, about the bass kind of, it's Michael Jackson's song and everybody's looking at him, but if it didn't have that bass leading in at the beginning and setting the rhythm and everything, it would be a completely different song. So I'm not familiar with this guy. Did you know? I don't want to put you on the spot, but did he play on anything else that um, I would have heard of?
Yeah, I think before he got in doing the Michael Jackson thing, I thought he was in, gosh, what band?
What's his name again?
If they're hiring him, obviously if they're hiring him, if Quincy Jones has enough,
I'm sorry, Dave. I shouldn't have done that.
No, I had read about it, but I forgot. So I'm looking it up now. But Brothers Johnson, that's what it was.
Oh, well,
It was
yeah.
with the
Okay.
Brothers Johnson, that's what it was.
Yeah, that's not small,
No,
small fry.
no.
right, this is going to be the best of the best with that crew.
Yeah. So yeah, and there I have grown to like other Human Nature. I like that song, Human Nature. Is it off this album or Off the Wall? I just the one song, Michael Jackson song I will never be able to listen to is "She's Out of My Life," where he starts crying at the end. I'm sorry, it just doesn't do it for me. You've never heard that? Look it up.
No,
She's out. It got some radio airplay. It did. Yeah. Anyway, whatever. Poor
yeah,
Michael.
that's the time.
Michael, the poor little rich boy. Um, oh, what a tragedy. What?
Moving on.
Yes. No, let me talk about it some more. So I went talk about a smooth transition. I went from Billie Jean to The Real Me by The Who. And so I did that. I had planned on that one on there somewhere. And actually, I probably would have done it earlier, but I wanted, what was it? I Continuum. I want to get that on. I was afraid somebody might beat me to it, although that song. But then Dave, you'd mentioned the Who, and John was also like, oh, I better because I wanted to get this specific song on. Because if you've listened to it, he is not just doing the framework. He's like all over. He's I don't know if you call it soloing, but he's very active. And John Entwistle was let's say it's The Real Me. It's off of Quadrophenia. Kind of their, I won't say the follow up to Tommy, but their first real attempt at doing another kind of rock opera thing. They had another one in there that they ended up kind of cannibalizing it to make Who's Next, which was a great album. But anyway, this one, I'd love to see the sheet music of just his playing because there's all these notes all over the place. And the interesting thing though is if you ever saw them live, he had this, he didn't move hardly ever. He looked like the calmest guy, but then he'd start playing. He was one of the few members, and maybe one of the only members of the band who actually had formal musical training. I think he played horns as a kid, and so yeah, he was just all over the place. This song in particular. I almost put on My Generation because not every mix they remixed it and they added um, guitar solo, but actually the original I believe was just a bass solo, which is highly unusual for would it be 1965 rock and roll? I don't know, 66 somewhere in there. Um, so he also met a kind of rough end. Just his lifestyle finally caught up with him. Um, I did get to see him twice with the Who. And then I forget who played. I went with my daughter to see, I guess, the next to last time they toured, and it was somebody else. But
I'm glad you put this on. This was you know, unless you're focusing on the bass, and this is one where it made me rethink the Who, the song, John Entwistle. He wrote the song, and it's like I think what I read was it's kind of like it's a bass lead, like he's leading the song with his bass, and he playing on the upper register so much and doing that, unbelievable. I was going to put on like Boris the Spider or something, something like that, because he's all over on that one. But this song really just showcases John Entwistle. I mean, so I'm glad you put it on. I was reading also that there's always influences that bass players have when they hear other tracks, other songs, and I don't know if where it comes from, Wikipedia or whatever, but they said many bassists, including Flea and Geddy Lee, cite this track as a life-changing moment. Like when they heard it, they went, "Oh my gosh, I want to do that," kind of thing. So he was a pioneer in many ways.
All right. This song, like y'all said, and I'll just reiterate it. He is the lead instrument. How many rock and roll songs that have the bass can you say that about? He is the lead. In fact, I listened to it 3 or 4 times just to think, when does the guitar kick in here? Because you expect some solo or something. That never does. It's him. And he drives that song I don't say he drives it into the ground, but he drives that song. And I read somewhere else too. It must have come up on my Facebook feed of like, if you're not listening to this song, you don't know rock and roll or something like that. I was like, oh, that's weird. Probably coincidental, probably some algorithm, but yeah, I said it prior to this. I'll say it. When he passed away, it was like in 2000. I think that's when I know they still tour, but I think that was when the Who. Losing Keith Moon is bad enough. I mean, that dude was just unto himself. And they kind of came back with, who are you? And it was all right. And with Entwistle, but once he was gone, I just thought, well, these guys, it's those two guys. They can have their fun with it, but I don't think I'd see those two guys in concert again. To each his own, But yeah, this song especially, this album especially, I think Mike was the one who kind of really turned me on to this album because I never owned it and he had it, and I borrowed it maybe for a couple of 3 weeks or something. So it was it's a great song. I really love that. From there, of course, I went back to my Fish, just saw him at the Sphere. Mike's song, Mike Gordon. Obviously, it's his song, Mike's song. I tried to find as short Mike song as you could find because there's at least this was the shortest of 6 because it really doesn't end there. They usually go 12 to 15 minutes and then they go into another song. But just a small glimpse into Mike singing. Mike is part of, he gets his fair share as being part of Fish. I've seen him do solo concerts. He has his own band and he does pretty well, and obviously he has a distinct style, but I obviously play, and I put this song on. It's kind of his signature song, and longer versions, obviously you get longer solos and here and there, but just thought I'd throw that out there. He's one of my influences.
No, I appreciate it as always. You sold me on Fish. I've said this every time you put one of their songs on, but I don't know if I've only seen them once. I didn't know all the songs in, so I don't know if they played this when we saw them. But it's interesting. I like where they throw in just the interesting lyrics. I know I'm no nice guy. Me no are no nice guy. And they repeat that like that. And I have a question about. Okay, so I looked up the lyrics just like generally on Google. And so they don't do it on this, and I'm just wondering if I'm sure you know more about this, but at the end of these lyrics, it shows it has a line from the end, and the line about Indians on Don's Highway bleeding goes into so a couple of doors things, and then careful with that, Axe Eugene, and then Mother. Anyway, I don't know. Did they throw those in?
Yeah, I must have been out the album or something. I don't know where that comes from. That's weird.
I always thought of this. If you look, just search Mike's song lyrics, and that's the first thing that comes up. But I don't see it anywhere else. So I was hoping there was a story there, but it'd be interesting to hear those. Anyway, nothing else to add. Thanks for that.
Well, I think what you're doing is, he's putting on Fish, and we're getting into Fish, and we're becoming Fish. What is it? Fish heads, fish people, fish
fans,
fish, whatever. But we're learning about the different players. So at first it's like, okay, now we know after several of these, we're like Trey Anastasio, Trey Anastasio. We know Trey. Okay. And then, but I couldn't probably tell you the rest of the band and the players until you started putting them on. Then we did the piano one, and and it was actually a separate wingsuit with Paige McConnell, and so now it's like, okay, now I know the name Paige McConnell. Now we're doing the bass, and it's like you did Mike's song, Mike Gordon. Okay, now I got that in my head. Now I got the bass player. So now I'm just waiting for you to do the Fishman thing, with the drums, and I'll have memorized all the players in Fish. But no, it's good. We like Fish. Keep it coming. It was a good jam, and it wasn't too long. Like you said, you're always looking for something that's not going to be too long and drawn out for to put on a playlist. So this was a good choice. From there, okay, so I was looking at bass players and and that kind of thing. And I thought, all right. I mean, we know Paul McCartney is one of the greatest bass players of all time.
Easy.
But I mean, because he writes, he sings, he does, everything. So what song would be like a song that would showcase him? And then, okay, I used Copilot and I looked up, hey, what Paul McCartney songs feature the bass? And it was boom, first one, Silly Love Songs. I'm like, Silly Love Songs? Are you kidding me? I've heard that thing hundreds of times. What bass part are you talking about? And so I listened to it and I went, oh my gosh, this thing is like phenomenal if you just focus on the bass. And other people have said that too. They're like, if you want to go and listen to Paul McCartney, listen to his bass part on Silly Love Song. And I'm like, that's just a nice swing song or whatever. But after I listened to it, I said, man, I got to put that on because it is all over, and just the runs and the things he does with it are just incredible. And so it showcased for me, even though we all knew how great Paul McCartney is, right? But this is one of the songs where I went, man, that's amazing.
Yeah, it is kind of crazy that he's this far down the list. It's kind of embarrassing. I'm like, oh, the only the greatest bass player of all time, because or at least the most recognizable bass player of all time, for sure. It's like, oh, that's right, Paul McCartney. He does play the bass. He's kind of talented, still kicking it, still doing it. And of course, like Dave said, once you start focusing on that bass on this song, man, again, such a multi-talented individual. Not to mention that it's supposed to be part of this spat with Lennon, and of course, not only does he come up with this masterpiece of a song, but he makes millions of dollars off it. Just like, oh, number one song. Oh, by the way, So yeah, great choice. Scott, again, maybe I should have been number one as being the greatest, but yeah, at least we got him in. So.
All I can say is some people want to fill the world with silly love songs, and what's wrong with that? That just says it there. No, yeah, I'd never thought about the bass in there either until you put it on there. And it's the same. We've said this. I'm repeating everything you guys have said, but it's true. It's like, it's a. I guess it's kind of a disco beat. But he's really makes a lot of it. And I'm sure there's other songs. If I thought about it, that probably had plenty of great Paul bass stuff. And if I'm correct, I don't think he started as a bass player. I think like when he was the Beatles and like in the early days, it's like somebody had to play bass, and so he did it, but he was playing guitar and whatever before that. So anyway, um, and I was gonna say, we had this album in my house when I was a kid, and of course this song was all over the radio. I still have that Wings at the Speed of Sound. I still have that actual copy somewhere. I'm sure it's really scratched up, but and not really. Just a side note, I don't know if you guys ever watched Late Night with Colbert, but his last episode, I guess he did. He has basically one guest usually, and so his last episode was Paul McCartney, and McCartney comes out and they do all this stuff, and there's all this kind of skits and stuff. But then at the very end, he does "Hello Goodbye," And he has, I guess, two of the guys, John Batiste, who I think's from New Orleans, and the other guy I should know uh, from his band from over the years, and then Elvis Costello out there with them, which really surprised me because I thought there was some bad blood there between them. But I think it was maybe just egos. I haven't gotten to that part in the book yet, Jose, the Elvis Costello book, but I'm sure it wasn't the Paul McCartney, Michael Jackson bad blood. Yeah, but
His new album's coming out this week.
yeah, I want to see it. I mean, hear it. Yeah, and he's also on a Stones song. They have a new record. I heard, I don't think it was him. There was a song that was mainly somebody else singing, not Mick, but Mick would chime in occasionally. So, but I want to hear that too, whatever song. I think that may be the first time he's been affiliated with the Stones. The Stones covered a couple of Beatles songs, but anyway.
I heard one of the tracks and something about that's my home, that was my home, or that was my.
He sang it on the SNL closer. He sang one of the songs on the SNL. His first song. Let's just say, he was struggling a little bit with his vocals. Not that he hasn't earned it, but yeah, it was a whole brand new song because it's called what, Down in something street or Dungeon Street or something like that. Tales from Dungeon Street, something. And yeah.
I think that's the first single. I haven't heard it, but I've heard of it. Is that the one that he duets with Ringo?
Yeah, I don't know if that's the one or not, but probably. I mean, why wouldn't you put that out there?
Anyway, I'm looking forward to that. So going on back to me, I went again another not smooth transition. I went with song Cannonball by the Breeders, and the Breeders. The reason I liked that song is their bass player is Kim Deal, who was the bass player for the Pixies, and she was pretty prominent in there. She would sing. She didn't. She sang in a lead on like, oh, was it that song In Heaven, which was off of Eraserhead, is where that originated, but they kind of made it their own. This song I didn't get it when it first came out, and then actually I heard she was the bass player on it, and then I saw them live at ACL Fest, and I don't know, I couldn't tell you what the song's about. It's odd, it's quirky, but it's just the bass is kind of very prominent, and I've just since I got to like this song, I really like it.
So this is a cool song, and I don't know how, I don't know if I don't know. This song, I don't know how it got on my like computer and playlist, but like how you get a new computer or whatever, and then like it goes, oh well, here's 3 sample songs or whatever, right? And this was one of them that was always on my computer, and I didn't know where it came from. Like I didn't know who it was or whatever. And so every now and then it would click on. I never went and looked at other Breeder songs or whatever, but I always knew this song, Cannonball, because it was always on my computer. I don't know why, but anyway. So now that we're looking at bases, I'm like, then I looked up, oh, who's this Kim Deal? What does she do? And I guess she was with did you say she was with the Pixies before? Yeah. So anyway, didn't know much about it other than the fact that it's always been on my computer. And I don't know how it got there.
Hey, that's how it gets introduced sometimes.
That's right.
Yeah, they're from Dayton. So I remember when this came out, and I was living in Ohio, and this was a big deal. So believe me, get my fair share of Cannonball. I think I even saw them at a show with a bunch of other, like the Toadies, but they were also big. I think we even owned the CD. I know, I think I produced, because that was also the era of like, when I play my Luscious Jackson, and it was kind of that era of these women like PJ Hart, these women were kind of coming to the forefront. And this was one of them. And this song was huge, especially the video was huge. But also because I was in Ohio in that proximity, that they played this quite a bit. So and I'm pretty sure I still own the CD. So yeah, it's a great song, and it was huge back in the day. And I liked it. Again, think it led to a lot of the other female vocal groups that I listened to. So yeah, great choice. That was one of those unusual choices out of nowhere that you would really enjoy. Good surprise. So from there, I'm not going to call it controversy. I picked "If I Had the World to Give" by Dead and Company. Now I knew even before I picked it, I knew I was going to be questioned about it. So of
All
course
right.
it is the it. This is what explained to me because of course if you think, and this is no disrespect anyway, if you think Grateful Dead and Dead Company are the same group, then I really can't help you there. They are not. And that's why when you go to the show, and that was my first problem. When I go to a Dead and Company show, you're like, okay, you're ready for Grateful Dead. And what you get is not, it's their interpretation of that Grateful Dead music. It's their spirit of. Now, you can debate, it's funny because I look at some of the other groups and we talk about them. Is the Who without John Entwistle and Keith Moon? Well, they decided to carry on with the name, so I guess so. But the counter offer to that is, what about Yes? They changed two whole new members, but they call themselves Yes. But they still play Yes songs, right? So anyway, I consider Dead and Company a whole different group than the Grateful Dead. Just as when Phil and Friends is not the Grateful Dead, but they play a lot of Grateful Dead music, and he was out there for 25 years, but you don't go, oh, is Phil and Friends the Grateful Dead? No, it's Phil and Friends. Phil and Friends was when Phil Lesh would take someone like Warren Haynes, Sharon Osbourne, and a keyboardist. They go out on tour, but they play Grateful Dead music. So anyway, I'm gonna have to beat that horse anymore. Anyway, so I think because of O'Teal, the Ozone, O'Teal Burbage. I just thought I'd bring someone in newer. He's not new. He's with the Allman Brothers for a lot of years. He had his own band. He's had his own band. He was with Dead and Company, and I thought and he was one of the better parts of Dead and Company. I mean, let's face it, it's hard to replace Phil Lesh, but I think O'Teal does the job pretty well. He's really out there. He has his own unique style. This is like Phil back in the day. Phil, when he was with the Grateful Dead, didn't sing very often. So when they played, there used to be shirts out there, "Let Phil Sing," and he'd sing "Box of Rain" or something like that. And O'Teal's the same way. He doesn't sing very much with Dead and Company, but "Sitting on Top of the World," which again is a cover. I mean, I think Doc Watson did it. A bunch of people have done that song. So, but I thought it doesn't really showcase his playing per se, but I think most people know him from this song and with Dead and Company. So anyway, I thought I'd throw that out there.
I'll say first off that I had forgotten. I had Shakedown Street, but I didn't listen to it very much, and I'd forgotten about this song. This is by far my favorite song on here. It's just such a beautiful arrangement and the sentiment, the lyrics. If I Had the World to Give, right? I listened to yesterday the whole record when I was walking, and it's a great recording. I mean, there's other songs in there I really like, and the bass playing is even more prominent on some of the other songs, and you really get to hear his style. Who else was in this band?
Which one?
I'm sorry?
Dead and Company?
John
Dead
Mayer,
Company.
John Mayer, of course, John Mayer, and then of course the Grateful Dead members, Weir and
drummers, Kurtzman Mark.
I think John Molo, not John Molo, but what's his face was the keyboardist.
The starts with a C, John Cinetti or something like that.
Yeah, you're right. Cementing.
Cinetti, yeah.
Yeah.
And so who sings on this song? Is that
That's
John
what
Mayer?
I was going to ask that question.
O'Teal sings. It's the one song he sings on a Dead.
Oh,
Really?
I like it even more then because I
Yeah.
looked at the thing and it's like I saw Bob Weir, John Mayer, and then O'Teal, and I'm like, which guy's singing? It didn't tell me which one. So the fact that he's singing makes this song even more special now.
Yeah, it's like I said, it's like Phil. Doesn't sing, only sings once in a while, but they let him sing on this song, and so that's why.
Oh, it's great. His voice is perfect for that song.
He's great. He has his own band I'd like to see. O'Teal and Friends. He does his own concerts. Yeah. So anyway.
Yeah, I liked it. Were you done, Mike? Or
Yeah, yeah, no, I'm good. I could talk more, but no, I'm
I
good.
mean, I'm saying the same kind of things. That's slow, sultry, beautiful arrangement, cool and jazzy. It had a slow solo guitar in it, but again, I didn't know who was singing, and so now that I know that it was him, yeah, it's. I'm glad you showcased him because yeah, the bass wasn't prominent, but those vocals were amazing. So good choice. From there, I'm trying to go with some of the songs that are maybe more radio friendly and popular. And I decided to go with Fleetwood Mac and John McVie. He's probably not. I mean, he's known, he's well known, but um, maybe not among the greatest bass players of all time. But the hook that comes with the song "The Chain" is so recognizable that I thought, it's probably a cool time to put that on. Everyone knows it. And when you get to that point, when you get the bass solo, that's great when he does it a couple times. But when everybody kicks it in and you get that beat going, that's just magic right there. So anyway, I've always liked the song and thought it would showcase little John McVie.
Yeah, that's a good choice. Again, that album, of course, is blockbuster album, and again, once you hear it, you know that song the minute it starts playing. Like I said, he he was involved in the drama with Fleetwood Mac, but not with the big players. So he didn't, of course, married to Christy McVie. So craziness in that thing. But yeah, that's a good choice. I think the song actually made it on one of the other mixtapes back in the day, so that might have been three. But I think that was what happened was we had the other song before it and we just let the tape play through. So sometimes we did that. Rules, who needs them? So anyway, great choice. Dave comes through with the classic, and that's sometimes what you need. So
Yeah, this one, that album, and this is hard to say because it's such a amazing album. But this is probably my favorite song on there, from back in the day. And for a while, I couldn't even listen to it. I owned it, but it was like, I had basically two sets of parents, and both of them had that record, and that was just like always playing. There was a time period where people of that generation, it was just like this was, it was a romantic album. It was like all the drama, there's just so much to this record. So I didn't listen to it for years. And more recently, I've been coming back to it and just being reminded, how great it was. And this song is no exception. I think I think this is the one. I saw a YouTube video not too long ago. Lindsey Buckingham is, I think, with one of his kids, and he's like watching somebody else do the song. This girl is playing it, and he's just sitting there like, she's playing better than I did. He's really enjoying it. So check that one out. But great song, and I would never speak ill of this in particular. It's a great song. Dave, I keep following you. You have this nice, perfectly nice, well-respected mainstream song, and I put on, something different. So I put on Mr. Crinkle by Primus. Les Claypool is the bass player, and I'll start talking about them by when I first heard of this band. They just kind of scared me. I like saw the video for this song, and it's just like, whoa, what on earth? And then the music isn't much more approachable, depending on what you want to get out of your music, at least initially. That this was early on. This is the only song of theirs I knew, except they did the South Park theme, which is kind of a snippet of a song, really. They've had others since then, but it's just he's Les Claypool. I've seen him. Well, I've only seen him once. He played with, and I know I've referenced this, but he played with Sean Lennon in this band. It's like the Lennon Claypool Delirium or whatever. And they did the whole Pink Floyd Animals, and then they did some of their stuff. And we've had them on the playlist, one from that band, and then one, Oysterhead, I guess, Mr. Oysterhead. But he's an unusual guy, very talented. Um, whatever you think of the band, it's kind of, it's not a danceable song. It's like, I don't know what I would call it, but he plays on the video, he plays a stand-up bass, and he's wearing this big kind of like overweight costume with a pig's mask on, and he donned that in the concert I saw. And just one last thing I'll say, I again, what is this song about? I had no idea. I looked it up, and Mr. Crinkle was actually the nickname of the drummer for the band Faith No More, and he was buddies with them, and he had gotten, that was his alias when he would check into hotels, Mr. Crinkle. And the song is basically about him describing, Les Claypool describing some of the things this guy said. And one of the things that it really focuses on, he was angry over rumors that the San Francisco Giants might relocate. And so that's the tell me why part and things like that. That's what that's about. It's not nearly as menacing as the song as you would believe listening to it or watching the video. That's all I got.
Dave, you want to go?
I think are you next or am I?
It doesn't make it.
I can either way. Yeah, I'm not familiar with the band at all, and so I had to do a little research. And yes, it is a little out there, a little strange, a little different. You had to listen. I had to listen to it a couple times to kind of get what they're all about. But I looked at a little interview that Les Claypool had done, and he was kind of talking about his influences and that kind of thing. And it was interesting that he said that Geddy Lee and Christopher Squire were a couple of his early influences. So you kind of see that happening. And but then these bassists take on their own style and their own identity. They may have gotten some influences, but they make their own way. And this is a good example of a guy who is very unique and different. I'm not sure you can put him in a box with other certain bassists. So, but he also plays lots of other instruments too. I found out that he's very talented and does lots of different instruments. So bass is not his only instrument.
Primus sucks. Primus sucks. Have you ever been to a Primus? That's what they chant at the very beginning for whatever reason, but they were always a different kind of band for sure. And he's really developed into one of the most unique bass players out there. I mean, obviously I like him because he was in Oysterhead, which had Trey, and then Copeland from the Police. And you can imagine those three together, and they had things, and he's had his Frog Brigade. And then I like the stuff with Lynn and Sean. And in fact, I think they just put out a new album or something like that. I know it's out there. So when I was doing the research for this, I almost picked one of those songs because I thought, you don't pick a Primus song, you should pick one of those. And I just think he's really talented and brought a lot of, he, like Dave said, he's not conventional in the least bit. He is his own brand of music, and he brings his bass to the forefront. He doesn't let that confine him, especially when you're in a trio like Primus, you got to bring it to the forefront. And it's no doubt that Geddy Lee had a huge influence with him. So, yeah, I loved it. A lot of great songs, a lot of great Primus songs out there. So that's, we got our bass players. I think we might have, as always, we don't capture everybody, but, we've had some. Is any, Dave, anyone that you think that you had on your list that we might not?
Sting was one, and Roger Waters was another that I thought, how can I maybe get them on there? But there were a couple that I thought maybe could have made the list.
Yeah, those Geddy Lee, who we've mentioned, John Paul Jones, Jack Bruce, I guess. But I think we captured most of everybody that I thought of on this list.
Yeah, I think this was more of our, personal preference ones, like all of the lists are. So yeah, Larry Graham, I think I mentioned that before, from Sly and Family. I mean, hugely influential in a lot of groups out there. So yeah, it's pretty amazing. So we've got them all there. So hopefully we're on to the next one if we do another one. So everyone, take it easy and see y'all next time.